Hello and welcome to What's Next Wall Street. I'm George Alfredas. This week we are talking stocks, the metaverse, crypto, and the new decentralized financial Web3 around us, and essentially what all that means for traders. Dave is out this week. He's at Burning Man, but I've got all the hot new trending products that everybody's talking about using and investing in. Plus, we've got Greg Krause, lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com here with his expert analysis and insight to help us help you target investment potential. The goal here is to provide you with education and information and tips so that you're not out here like a newbie. I mean, even if you are a newbie, we want you stacking gains like an OG. All right, so you can email us at OptionsPlayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street with your questions and even your comments. We can also direct you to instructors and experts over at OptionsPlayers.com who can help you come up with a tailored trade plan. Do yourself a solid, and us too. Watch this and past episodes on the Options Players YouTube channel and or listen to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And make sure you subscribe and hit the alert button so that you always know what's next on Wall Street. So Snoop and Eminem, y'all see this? You see how I did this? Actually, Dave Mathews bought me this t-shirt and it's Snoop. Okay. Anyway, they brought the metaverse and NFTs to MTV when they performed their single From the D to the LBC as their Bored Ape Yacht Club avatars. The video has been out for a couple of months, but that video features 2D animation. Now, we've talked about Yuga Labs' upcoming game called Other Side, which is what Snoop and Eminem were immersed in during the show. Other Side is still in phase 1, so only Other Deed Land NFT owners and a few developers have even been able to try it out. So how about this, y'all? Eminem paid $450,000 for his Bored Ape avatar last year. Crazy, right? Snoop acquired his ape in some kind of bundle deal, so who knows how much it cost. We do know that over 25 million people have streamed Snoop and M's new single, and that video has gotten almost 50 million views on YouTube. Meanwhile, Snoop has his own sandbox avatars / game, but that's for another show. Say it ain't so. Whole Foods is being sued after claiming their beef had no antibiotics ever. 3 consumers and an animal welfare nonprofit are filing the lawsuit, which claims lab tests from Whole Foods beef in 6 states all contain antibiotic and pharmaceutical residue. Now, those results could only mean that cattle have been treated with antibiotics or other drugs. Do you have any idea how much organic beef costs? These consumers do, because I guess that's why this suit also accuses Whole Foods of charging substantial premiums for their antibiotic-free meat. Now, the plaintiffs want Whole Foods to correct these marketing errors and pay damages, punitive damages to consumers who overpaid. Hey, where's my money? I'm in that suit. Now, Greg, I know that you have land, and I know my dad, we had cattle growing up. Maybe not like, he wasn't like a cattle rancher, but maybe we had 50 head of cattle at one time or another. You know, that's how much we'd have. And so when he would when a cow was sick, he would give him an antibiotic. I remember those pills in the fridge were huge, and the meds, and then the big old. So, but what he would do is he would sell that cow, and we wouldn't eat it. You know what I mean? So we would never eat that meat.
I might be, from the country, but I don't really know the real effects of antibiotics in your food.
Here we go.
I just don't.
We go.
I think I know, and I know what organic means. It's like the only one that really means anything. Everything else is kind of garbage. Like it can't do anything. Even its food can't have certain fertilizer or anything like that. But I mean, really, do we really care? The water that the cow is drinking probably has antibiotics and cocaine and everything else in it. It's water. Like, go check your water. And
I will check our water.
And I bet you it has traces of everything in it, right?
I bet you it does not.
I bet you it does. But, so I don't know the real effect of the body. I'm not a doctor on that. But, yeah, I mean, they're going to come after you. If you got that label.
You claim there's no antibiotics. Some people don't even use antibiotics. So you're going to make me eat meat with antibiotics?
Yeah, but I mean, for me, I mean, if I want organic meat, and I know if you're in the city, you can't really do that. You can, like, even what I do is we share a cattle.
Yeah, that's right.
So we go buy a portion of a cow, and it's raised at a friend's house. It's half mine. It just sits there, and then we split it up, and I have this part of the cow. They have that part. If you need more, you just get a whole cow or whatnot.
That's right.
And it's way cheaper than buying organic food, and you know exactly what it is.
Well, you know it's organic.
Because you're paying to feed it, so you're just basically paying, or they could take care of it all, but you can just say, hey, it stays here, whatever, and I actually feed it. So you could do that. I don't know about city kids, how y'all are going to do that. But
you know what? You and the city kid stuff. Speaking of things that cost way more than they actually should, Tesla's full self-driving system is about to get more expensive. CEO Elon Musk has announced that the FSD software is going up from $12,000 to $15,000 effective now. This is the second FSD price hike this year. Remember, in January, it jumped from $10,000 to $12,000. However, Tesla drivers may get that $5,000 back with this whole tax incentive for EVs. Currently, though, there is a 200,000 vehicle cap on electric cars, meaning car companies that sold over 200,000 cars are not eligible for a tax credit. So Tesla, GM, and Toyota owners do not get that tax break. However, the Inflation Reduction Act includes some revisions like taking away that 200,000 vehicle cap on tax credits. Now, don't get too excited about this, especially if you've got a fancy EV like a GM Hummer, a Lucid Air, or a Tesla Model S or X, or basically any sedan that cost over, $55,000, or any SUV or truck that cost over $80,000. Also, you probably shouldn't get too excited if you're single making over $150,000, or if you're married filing jointly and y'all make over $300,000, because you also will not get that tax break. The act also eliminates tax credits for vehicles not made or at least assembled in North America. So it has to have a North American built battery. I'm laughing because Greg is looking at me like I'm crazy. With minerals mined or recycled in the U.S. It's in the act, Greg. This is an effort to limit our dependence on batteries imported from China. Now, there is a lot to unpack here, Greg, and Greg's giving me the eye the whole time. The average price of an EV is around $65,000. You have one, but you could get a Chevy Bolt for around $27,000. Includes your tax break of $4,000 to $7,000, and that's like a $20,000 vehicle. Plus, you're saving on gas, and you're doing your part to save the environment. So, Greg, I want to know if you think these restrictions are going to encourage automakers to maybe lower the price of their EVs.
No.
Specifically, I'm talking about that Hummer.
No, not at all. And first off, there's a few things I like about this part of the EV thing. So if you're really trying to get into, moving away from some fossil fuels and whatnot to the EV side, first off, in the Inflation Increasing Act, you're all this spending, and it was actually, if the battery is made in the United States, you get double, I believe is what it was.
Wow.
So say you get 3,000 or 5,000, it can actually double that if it's actually made here. So you can get it if it's made somewhere else, but if it's actually all made here, then it doubles that amount.
Sweet.
I think this is good because in the past, who is that really helping, right? You're trying to create demand for these cars and all the infrastructure that comes with it. So, people will make all these charging stations, which none of them work. Like if you have friends with Teslas in an area that a lot of people have Teslas, all of them are broken, and if you can't do it at your house, you're probably driving everywhere trying to find one. Who is this tax break really going to? Who is out there buying Model S's? People that don't need tax breaks, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I like the fact that they kind of put a limit on the cap. I understand now the SUVs go up, like 65, but I mean, can you buy really a nice SUV for 65 nowadays?
Right.
And then the car's a little bit cheaper. So I like the fact that it's going to help people that get it. Is it going to lower the price? No, it's not. And because it's just a supply and demand issue, right? So they're going to say, now the government's giving you $5,000. They're going to look at it as what I would say, a market equilibrium for cash flow. So let's just say you could afford a $500 payment. That's what the average person can afford. Their demand, it's in demand. They don't need to make less. They can make as many as they want. Someone's going to buy them. But $500 is where it's at. Well, when you added that extra $5,000 tax credit, it lowered that cash flow that they would have to send out. So what do you think these automakers are going to do?
You think they're going to raise it a little bit?
Raise the price.
Wow.
Unless the demand is not there, then they'll lower it. There is absolutely no way. They're going to look at it from that perspective is I can raise the price because my consumer has so on and so on much money. That's how I, as an analyst, if I was working for a company, would say, okay, at this point, we can raise.
It could be $32,000 because really it's going to be $27,000, which is what they were going to pay in the first place.
Yeah, so I could say, hey, we have 10,000 that are in demand. We've got 10,000 people who signed up for it. We'll they were willing to pay this per month. Let's jack the price up. And if you think, oh, they won't do that because they're nice, come on.
Okay.
All right, that's what they're going to do. Sorry.
Meanwhile, Ford recently announced that it's cutting thousands of jobs, mainly in the U.S., Canada, and India. The job cuts come as Ford restructures its operations to remain or actually become more competitive in the EV market. This whole EV thing, Greg, it's making me feel the same way I do about TikTok. Like, I want to get on board, but I just haven't because it's a lot. And now I see how my mom feels when I remind her that she can actually do more on her cell phone than just talk. I'm like, Mom, it's a smartphone.
One thing people need to understand is if you just have like 120 volt, it could only get you like a mile an hour. Like literally, that's how fast it will charge, unless you have like a supercharger or more power. So adding different powers and charging stations inside your garage or outside of your garage may require you to have battery packs on the outside of your house. And what will that require? HOA approvals in some cases. So a lot of y'all that are really trying to get these cars and things like that.
Yeah, but the HOA is not going to say no to that.
There's
Why would they
HOAs
say
that won't
no?
let you get solar power unless it faces the backside of your property, which the sun might not ever hit.
Right.
So don't think the HOA won't get it, because we know Karen's out there with the notepad going after everybody with the HOA. And now I'll never live in an HOA because that's just me. But majority of so you got to also think about that. And I think in most cities, they'll wipe. If the HOA says no, they'll nix it. But just before you get crazy with it, you might want to check your HOA rules because
do your research.
Yeah.
Well, look, though, the transition from gas to electric is picking up speed everywhere. I mean, whether you like it or not, Greg, whether we're doing it or not, Washington State is on track to follow California's lead on banning the sale of new gasoline-powered cars. Governor Inslee tweeted that the state's going to adopt California's regulations by the end of this year. So California plans to ban the sale of new gasoline cars by 2035. In other news, NVIDIA shareholders are having a very bad week. NVIDIA has been ordered to stop exporting its two top computing chips for artificial intelligence work to China. So NVIDIA says the government order could cripple Chinese companies' ability to carry out advanced work like image recognition. Now, NVIDIA said government officials told the company the new rule is going to address the risk that the covered products may be used in or diverted to military end use or military end users in China. Greg, what are we doing here? I mean, this is like a big trending story, but does this mean I need to, this is how I look at it, like, oh, darn, NVIDIA, but now I can get in.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea from that tech point to say, oh, we're not going to give them our AI chips or anything like that. First off, we just passed the chip manufacturer. I don't want to say it wrong, but the one that was giving subsidies to the chip makers. All right. And whatever, all right, we all know all the politicians sold their NVIDIA in July. That should have been a sign for everybody else to get out. Sorry if you didn't pay attention. But, when they all start like, oh, we just passed this law that looks good, but we're all selling our stuff. That wasn't like we just made money. That was probably a sign, hey, we're about to limit the food selling.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's everything. I think it's like you said, it's only like certain artificial intelligence that have some type of military or a possible military application, which could be a lot. Digital imagery is huge, regardless of what it's in. If it's in a tank, even your foot soldier now has imagery that's processed into MVGs, things like that, thermals. And then, of course, every missile now has some form of camera on it. That's how they track it. So, it's hard to say, but it's China. I mean, we're not exporting to China. Like, I understand that NVIDIA is based here. Where are we making these chips? Right. Maybe a few of them here. The rest of them are probably made in, China. Yeah. Or probably Taiwan or South Korea or somewhere like that.
But it's a start. It's a start.
China has the ability to produce at a lower, like a smaller little chip than we do. So the little nanometer things. More. So you're thinking they just can't produce their own? What are we hurting? And what is the response from China going to be? So I don't want to say it's wrong or right now. Let's give it a little second because I don't really understand why they're trying to do it. It might be something we don't know about, okay? Mm-hmm. But, to say we can't do it to China and Russia seems a little bit as an attack, saying we're not going to give you this. Well, we don't need anything from Russia, all right? But everything we get is made in China. I don't need to look very far to see everything that says made in China, even in this room, right? So what are they going to say? Hey, well, we're not going to sell you this, like you can't have any more plastic. Who knows, so
all right.
I think we'll see. I think it'll hurt NVIDIA a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a dramatic attack on AMD. I think they'll probably be good. NVIDIA, on the other hand, it is what it is. And they're in a downslope right now. Nobody's buying GPUs for gaming and crypto's down. So that's affecting NVIDIA and everything. So it's a really bad time. But with that said, when everybody's selling and it's going way down, this is when you buy stuff, right? You don't buy it when it's at the very top.
Do you think it's going to go down any further?
Oh, yeah, I do. And it's not the fact that I think it's going to go down further because of it and the market's kind of hesitating. With elections coming up, I just don't feel safe in the market right now until we know how that pans out, because the volatility creates fear. So we may, I've pretty good trend line coming down on the market, sloping down, and I've made money shorting it every time. So I think it could go lower. And in that case, that's where I'd want to buy it. But if you just have to put your money in something, there's a few beat up companies out there, I think, that are just really beat up. Besides NVIDIA, you have Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call them now. They're extremely beat up and, with a pretty good potential to the upside. And by the way, I hate that company. Like, I don't even use it.
Who, you, Greg?
Yeah.
You hate it?
I hate almost everything, right? But, there's some beat down ones. And NVIDIA is definitely kind of beat up. I think it could go lower. I don't know what it's down now. I think it was down like 6% or something yesterday. But we'll see. I think you could probably pick it up in the low 100s if you're lucky.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Greg. So today's pro tip is brought to you by OptionsPlayers.com. Trade for your future. The first golden rule of successful trading is there are no shortcuts to quick earning. Investors should follow a process to reach their financial goals, which include proven strategies and rules that help match their goals. At OptionsPlayers.com, there's a heavy emphasis on education and structure. So naturally, the initial goal for traders is to help them lose bad habits and impatience. Once traders understand goal setting and the importance of following proven strategies, they tend to experience much greater results. We hope this suggestion helps you stack more gains. All right, so this is the part of the show where we get to hear from you. Send your questions and comments to WNW@OptionsPlayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street. So this first comment comes from Finner321, who wrote, writes, always good information. Greg's explanation of Fed unwinding and its effects was super informative. George is the coolest host there is. Okay, I added that part, but I'm sure that's what he wanted to say. I'm sure he was thinking it. Stephen Martin wrote, great information as always. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Nick S. from Options Players Community has a question for you, Greg. Nick writes, I notice that stocks typically tend to run up going into their respective earnings. The price increase along with the volatility increase. Does this combination allow swing traders to capitalize heading into earnings? If so, what are ideal parameters for the strikes to enter, i.e. expiration, delta, et cetera? I don't even know what the question is.
You don't even know what the question is. All right, so for an options trader, I think it's one of the best setups you'll probably get, okay? And what I mean by that is we're always looking for an edge on the market. So normally that means when you're buying options, you're not the casino, right? Okay. You are actually the gambler because you got to be right about so much. So time and everything else. But going into your ER, there are a few things that you can actually purchase and actually bait out. And that's because you said volatility increases. When volatility increases, you have Vega. So as volatility increases, Vega increases the price of the option, right? It just gets more expensive. It's in more demand. And essentially that's what it is. So if Vega can outpace theta, which is your time decay, you can make money. So if you go back and you look without looking at the price and you just look at how volatility goes up dramatically, let's say I used to do about 30 to 45 days out. I would look for a drop in volatility. That way I can purchase there. And then I would ride it into the ER and then sell before the ER when the volatility is high. Now, that gave me an edge on the market because I was expecting the volatility to outpace theta, so my time decay. So as time went on and volatility went up, the price could stay flat and I could make money. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's my edge. I know that's kind of complicated, and it would require me to really show you the things, but just understand that, yes, that is a really good thing that you should think of is before that, and you're riding that volatility up that outpaces theta. Now in spreads and things like that, there's also things you could do to try to eat away at that. You can eat away at the theta in it, or you could try to take away whichever one it is. So what I like to do is look historically back at the company to see how their volatility increases. And normally you'll see the more popular ones increase, right? Because everybody's, expectation, what's going to happen? And news starts coming out about, Apple just sold this many, so on and so on. And then people run the price up because the fear of missing out. So Apple was one that I always do it on. You see it on a lot of the more popular stocks. Now, if you're looking at a stock and nobody knows what it is, I'm sorry for this. Something like Owen's Corner or whatever it is. It's like, they make, sheet metal and stuff. And like wood, but it's got my kid's name in it, so I know what it is. So, so if that's it is what it is. That's probably not going to increase in volatility. But the one that all the little kids over there in Robinhood are just clicking button, buy and ask, that will increase the volatility. They'll buy the options up. So yes, you do get a lot of options volume around there. Not just the people wanting to make money off of it, but also people trying to protect their holdings, whichever way they have it, when the ER hits. So there's a lot of volume and a lot of volatility. So you can definitely make money on it. You just have to understand IV and how Vega works. And that's your best bet.
So if you don't understand IV and how Vega works, you might want to check out OptionsPlayers.com. Greg is, of course, he is an instructor over there, and he does live streaming, which is amazing to literally watch somebody trade live. It's super cool. So anyway, check that out at OptionsPlayers.com. Okay, if you have a question or a comment, you can always hit us up on social media or What's Next Wall Street or on our YouTube page. And of course, you can also email us, as I said, at www.OptionsPlayers.com. All right, so the value of Bitcoin may have dropped over 50% this year, but interest in crypto mining, especially in Texas, has not. Sources say miners want to connect to the Texas power grid and use up to 33 gigawatts of electricity. I'm sorry. Did they not hear about the great Snowmageddon of 2021? The one where my pipes froze and then burst, forcing my husband and I to spend weeks in a hotel room with two very energetic boys, a blue heeler and a Maine Coon, but still, if I ever see Greg Abbott, he's getting a piece of my mind. I tell you, that's not a political statement. That's a Texas is stupid for not being on the national grid statement. But to be fair, it's really not Greg Abbott's fault. But you know how we do. We get mad at whoever's in charge. And right now it's Greg Abbott, so he gets it. But I digress. Yes, we were at the Hilton. But it doesn't matter if you're at the Taj Mahal with my boys and my dog and my cat and my husband. So anyway, here's a little history lesson. Texas has been on its own grid since the New Deal. Roosevelt wanted to protect consumers and keep monopolies from forming. So under the New Deal, a power company in one state could not buy and sell electricity to another state. However, when you're as big as Texas, you don't really need to. So Texas avoided federal laws and could decide for itself how energy was distributed, how it was bought, and how it was sold. Texas could, and basically still can, do whatever it wants as regards to energy. Listen. The one thing Texas is not light on is energy. We've got sunshine, we've got coal, oil, gas, uranium, and wind, more wind power than any other state. So as long as Texas doesn't have a natural disaster, like a statewide snowmageddon, like a tornado, like some flooding, etc., we're Gucci. That means good, right? Okay, back to the miners. So this 33 gigawatts of electricity is enough to power all of New York State, not the city of New York, the state, right? So right now, crypto miners account for about 1.2 gigawatts in Texas, which is enough to power around 200,000 or so houses. Can Texas withstand this way? I'll get back to you, Greg. The grid collapsed without crypto mines. So I'm thinking, no. They literally asked Texans to restrict usage almost the entire summer because it was so hot. I get it. Texas is attractive to Bitcoin miners. By the end of 2022, 20% of mining worldwide is expected to be situated in Texas. Texas has low electricity rates, and the state's courting these miners by offering reduced rates. And miners can get paid for powering down during peak demand, like this summer when it was like 100 degrees for months. So NBC is reporting that miners get revenues for not using electricity. The cost of those revenues are passed on to other electricity customers. Let me tell you something, Greg. Our electric bill has been consistently around $700 all summer long. And one month it was $900. I was going around turning every light off. I was just like, what are y'all doing? So it used to be like $400 a month.
I would be mean and tell people why it's not $700. It's probably that heated pool back there that your husband's chilling out in.
Listen, what I want to know is, can the Texas grid? Yeah, it is him. It is the pool. It is definitely the pool, right? But it's other things too. Can Texas withstand these miners, and can the consumers withstand these bills?
Yeah, so I don't. First off, the miners came here because of issues in China and everywhere else. They could pick wherever they wanted to go, and you have to understand these are multi-billion-dollar corporations. These aren't like little kids with GPU computers thinking they're going to mine stuff. They didn't go, I'm going to go to Texas. They did their research. They knew who had the best power grids. They knew where they can get it. In Texas, the reason why? Renewable energy, wind, and all that. And they actually produce the majority of their own power. For example, and you said how, when the governor or whoever, I don't live in Texas, asked everybody to back off on their power consumption.
I wish I would. I put that thing on 65. Right? I was like, I'm going to turn this
thing into
That's what
it was, right? They're like, I don't like it. I'm going to put it on 60, right? So really what happened is they asked everybody to do that, and then the power company asked the miners to stop mining, and they did. Not only that, they put 1,000 megawatts, which is basically what New York City uses, back into the system during those times. So there you go.
So you think it's going to be good? You think it can withstand?
So yes, they're trying to use a lot, and no, they're not going to use 33 or whatever. They're crazy. I think that they just wanted that maybe to somehow get it. I think it'll mostly be renewable, because you got to think right now Bitcoin's around 20,000. You can't mine profitably there, and that's kind of why it's stuck there. So you have to wait for the difficulty to lower. That way it costs less to actually mine one. That way you don't have to sell them all to mine the next one. So with that being said, they're businessmen. They've looked at it. They're not going to come here and say, oh, you can't do this or that or that. They're producing most of it. They want to probably produce it the cheapest way they can long term. That's going to be what? Renewable. For everyone else, Texas isn't about the population, which is a lot. It's the industries, the refining. I can only imagine Texas has to use more energy than everybody almost times two. It's ridiculous, right? But it's mostly industrial use, commercial use. It's not everything else. So with that being said, yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. The problem is instead of making every person kind of go down, you make the commercial. But then you get into the issue that you do understand that industries and commercial energy cost less than what you pay.
I do understand that.
Right? Why are they getting a discount, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because they spend more. I got it. But, it is there. I think a lot you have to worry about is everybody has just been rushing to Texas.
Yeah.
It's not
insane.
Just this. I mean, you can, here in Dallas or northern Dallas or outside of Dallas, but you get on Fresco, Plano. 5 years ago, it was like, and now it's like, boom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and all these.
But people move here because it's cheaper, but not your electricity bill. Stop coming.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all these new industries, all these new commercials, and everyone moving here, using it up. And really, have they been able to keep up? And especially the last 2 or 3 years.
See, that's the issue.
With, issues with COVID and supply and everything else, how can they keep up with that? Plus, all the electric companies have been handling all the hurricanes and stuff, right? So
hello.
They haven't been
We live in Tornado Alley. That concerns me.
So
sometimes our power goes out. Sometimes we have rolling blackouts because this is Tornado Alley. And we never had snow like we did. However, it concerns.
And the snow thing was really weird.
Yeah.
And
I'm
not going to study. I'm not going to argue whose fault it was. If you're in charge, it's your responsibility as a city, okay, first as a municipality, to provide health, city, clean water. It's on the city, not the state. But then as the governor, if a city can't do it, you're supposed to be able to help them in some way, right?
That's right.
So the buck stops with old Greg Abbott.
Yeah.
But now with that being said,
well, he didn't make Texas this way. Texas this way was for a long time.
So it wasn't. So the big issue with most of the, say, storm or whatever it was, Snowmageddon, right? it was natural gas, right? So it was winter, you need to heat stuff. Majority of the power in Texas is from natural gas, by the way. And natural gas, they said, oh, the natural gas pipes freeze and all this. First off, I was like, natural gas froze. It's a gas. I was just thinking in my head, like, it's a gas at room temperature. What does it have to get to freeze? Because it's got to go back to a liquid, back to a solid. So I looked it up. It's like negative 247 degrees, right? It's definitely not there, Fahrenheit. So then I looked in a little bit more. It was the equipment that they used to actually move the gas and everything else. So it wasn't even the issue with the systems. It was the railroad and everyone else couldn't get the gas off or anything else. So now, believe it or not, because I did the research when you told me about this thing, last month, Texas passed a law, I believe it was last month, might have been earlier this month, passed a law that all the companies that supply that natural gas and other things have to have systems in place to stop that from happening again. So all their equipment has to be like frozen proof to a certain temperature. Now, was that just some political handshake, or is that really going to work? I don't know. We'll find out the next time Texas gets snow in 100 years.
So I was going to say, probably in 100 years.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Greg Krause, lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com, for being here with us today. Remember, if you have questions or if there's anything you'd like to see us cover on the show, email us at www@OptionsPlayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street. And catch up on past episodes of What's Next Wall Street on Options Players YouTube page, or listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit that alert button so that you get current trending info as soon as it drops. I'm Georgia Alfredas. We will see you next time on What's Next Wall Street.